when we There are two different kinds of mysteries. The kind where something is missing, and the kind where something is missing and someone insists it isn't. This is the Pine Grove Briar. In this episode, we dive into the case of the missing Sodder children. Christmas Eve, 1945. Fayetteville, West Virginia. World War II had just ended. The country was trying to exhale. Coal towns were steady again. Families were home. And the Sodders had 9 children. That night, 5 of them would never be seen again. The official record says they died in the fire. Their parents said they did not. Both sides still have arguments. The night of the fire, at 12:30 a.m., the phone rang. Jennie Sodder answered. A woman asked for someone who didn't live there. There was laughter in the background. She later said that the voice felt unfamiliar, almost staged. She hung up. Around 1 a.m., smoke filled the house. George woke to flames moving along the roofline. He shook Jennie. They gathered their younger children. 4 made it out. 5 remained upstairs. Maurice, Martha, Louis, Jennie, Betty. George ran outside for the ladder he always kept against the house. It wasn't there. He ran to his coal trucks, intending to drive them beneath the window and climb onto the roof. Neither truck would start. He would later say both had been in working condition hours earlier. And the house collapsed within 45 minutes. By dawn, there was almost nothing left. The Fayette Tribune had this to say on December the 26th, 1945. Quote, tragedy struck the Sodder family early Christmas morning as fire consumed their residence on Maple Avenue. 5 children are believed to have perished. Authorities report the blaze spread rapidly, leaving little opportunity for rescue. End quote. Believed to have perished. Even that first article left room. During the investigation, the fire marshal declared faulty wiring. But here's where the record begins to splinter. An electrician who had inspected the home weeks earlier testified the wiring was sound and modern. The Sodders claimed that the Christmas lights had remained on during the fire, suggesting electrical failure was unlikely. The official conclusion did not change. The coroner's inquest record read like this. and I quote, "The jury finds that the deaths of the five Sodder children were due to fire of accidental origin. No evidence of foul play was determined." End quote. No evidence determined. Not no foul play. No evidence determined. There is a difference. Now, there are some other things that didn't sit quite right. The phone line had been cut, not burned, cut. A repairman later confirmed this. A neighbor claimed to have seen a man watching the property days before Christmas. Another man reported seeing balls of fire thrown onto the roof that evening. Police dismissed it as children playing with debris. The missing ladder? Well, it was found down an embankment days later. And George insisted he had not moved it. And the trucks that wouldn't start during the fire? Guess what? They worked the next day. Now, you can explain each one of those things separately. Phone lines can be damaged. Trucks fail in cold weather. Ladders get misplaced in a panic. But lined up together, they resist comfort. And if you've got your pipe in hand smoking along tonight, let it cool down before drawing again. A good blend from the Gatlin-Burlier tobacconist doesn't demand force. It rewards patience. And this story most definitely demands patience. The fire science. Let's talk about heat. House fires typically burn between 1100 and 1500 degrees Fahrenheit. Crematoriums operate closer to 1800 degrees Fahrenheit, sustained for hours to reduce remains completely. Investigators claimed no bones were found. No fragments, no teeth. Nothing identifiable. Now, some forensic experts argue it would be nearly impossible for 5 bodies to be reduced to ash in that time frame. Others counter that structural collapse, fuel sources, and oxygen flow can create intense localized heat pockets. Both explanations have science behind them. So, which science feels more convincing? In another newspaper excerpt from the Charleston Gazette on January 3rd, 1946, quote, "Authorities remain firm that the Sodder children were consumed by the blaze. While no remains have been conclusively identified, investigators suggest complete destruction is possible under extreme conditions." End quote. Possible. Not certain. Possible. Let's talk about George Sodder. George was outspoken. He was an Italian immigrant, openly critical of Mussolini during the war. Now, that was not universally appreciated in 1940s Appalachia. One insurance salesman reportedly told him, "Well, your house is going to go up in smoke, and your children are going to be destroyed." End quote. That statement was later referenced in local reporting. Was it heated rhetoric or a warning? People say terrible things in arguments, but sometimes those words age very, very poorly. Now let's talk about the sightings. Days after the fire, reports began surfacing. A woman claimed she saw the missing children in a passing vehicle. A roadside diner owner in Charleston stated, "I served breakfast to 5 children resembling the Sodders, accompanied by 2 adults who appeared unfamiliar with the area." A hotel clerk in South Carolina reported a family checking in under different names, matching descriptions. Now, none of these leads were confirmed. As a matter of fact, all were dismissed. But here's the uncomfortable part. If 5 children were abducted, multiple people would have had to remain silent. If 5 children died, investigators missed physical evidence, which failure is easier to accept. Now about the heart. Years later, the fire marshal admitted he had placed what he believed to be a heart in the rubble, later identified as beef liver, to give the family something to bury. He called it compassion. Others call it fabrication. Which word feels more accurate? Then there's the billboard. The Sodders refused to accept the ruling. They erected a billboard along Route 16. 5 children's faces displayed. A reward offered. For decades, that sign stood. A 1952 newspaper said this, quote, "George and Jennie Sodder continue their search for answers in what remains one of Fayette County's most persistent mysteries." End quote. Persistent. Not tragic accident. Persistent mystery. Parents do not search for decades without belief. But belief is not proof. Grief is powerful. Grief reshapes memory. Grief can reinterpret coincidence as conspiracy. But it can also sharpen instinct. So, which do you trust more? The paperwork or the parents? Before we close this episode out, there's something grounding about steady craftsmanship. Sewell's Woodworks on Etsy builds practical pieces. Flag displays, pipe rests, honest work shaped with intention. Solid things still exist. And if you need something uncomplicated after sitting with this story, and you're in the Knoxville, Tennessee area, Vol Market number 3 makes a cheeseburger or a turkey steam sandwich that doesn't require you to choose a theory. Deep fried pickles, kraut dogs. Simple answers still exist somewhere. Now, back to Fayetteville. The divide. If the children died that night, then this is a tragic case of fire, flawed investigation, and parents unable to accept unbearable loss. If the children live, then it's one of the most successful and unexplained abductions in American history. Both explanations require belief. One requires trust in official reports. The other requires trust in suspicion. You can line up the details. You can examine heat charts. You can question witness credibility. But at some point, you have to choose which uncertainty you can live with. Did 5 children perish in a Christmas fire? Or did 5 children leave that house alive? The official record says one thing. The unanswered questions say another. And that tension is why this story still burns. Sit with it and decide which discomfort feels more believable. This has been the Pine Grove Briar. Until next time, keep your pipes lit and your powder dry.
When we